My forecast is Bitcoin goes up 40%, then 35, then 30, then 25, then 20. And like 10 to 20 years out, it's clipping along at 20%. And then over the course of 100 years, it's growing 14% a year. And against that, the S&P index will probably grow 7% a year. The money supply will grow 7% a year. So if you diversify in the S&P index, you're just going to maintain your wealth, track the money supply if you get lucky. Bitcoin's going to outperform that.
Renowned billionaire, investor, entrepreneur, and business executive Michael Saylor stands out as one of the foremost Bitcoin bulls in the financial landscape. Despite his current advocacy for Bitcoin, Saylor was once a critic, famously predicting the cryptocurrency's demise in a tweet from 2013. However, over the past decade, he has transformed into one of Bitcoin's most significant investors and advocates. Holding a personal stash of over 177,000 Bitcoin, Saylor played a pivotal role in persuading MicroStrategy shareholders to adopt a permanent Bitcoin standard for the software company in 2020. This commitment means MicroStrategy continues to accumulate Bitcoin holdings with available cash, currently amassing 15,400 Bitcoin. Saylor's unwavering belief in Bitcoin is grounded in its intriguing fundamentals and his perception of the global monetary system undergoing rapid deterioration due to continuous money printing by central banks. In a recent interview with MMCrypto, Saylor reaffirmed his strong conviction in Bitcoin, predicting a sustained rise in its value, first to $1 million per coin, and eventually surpassing $10 million. Clips from the interview delve into Saylor's discussions on his Bitcoin holdings, MicroStrategy's Bitcoin standard, and the growing urgency for Bitcoin in the face of chaotic economic and geopolitical conditions.
Please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to drop your comment and observations in the comment section below. Thanks and enjoy the video.
Well, I think in the fall of 2020, I disclosed that I had acquired 17,732 Bitcoin, and I haven't sold any. You don't sell your Bitcoin. And then MicroStrategy, in its latest quarterly release, announced that it had now reached 158,400 Bitcoin. So we have just been consistently acquiring more Bitcoin, and we've, done it through a dozen or more different transactions, cash buys, debt issuances, equity issuances, etc. So generally, you could say that I'm long Bitcoin. I think MicroStrategy is getting close to having invested $4.7 billion of cash, of real money in Bitcoin, just slightly less, something like that. I bought the 17,732 Bitcoin, back when it was about below 10,000. So I probably invested $175 million of cash. Obviously, we're long-term, so it doesn't really matter what you spent to buy it. It matters more about how many Bitcoin you have and whether you're still holding the Bitcoin when Bitcoin hits $1 million a coin or 10 million a coin. I don't think it's very wise to sell Bitcoin. I'm a Bitcoin maximalist. And so Bitcoin maximalist means a lot of things to a lot of different people, but certainly what it means from an investor point of view is I view Bitcoin as the apex asset. So MicroStrategy is a public company. Our strategy is literally to acquire more Bitcoin. Our strategy is not to trade. Our strategy is not diversified investments in a portfolio of technology companies. Our strategy is very simple. We're a levered long Bitcoin operating company. So if you think about us, comparing us to like a spot Bitcoin ETF, a spot Bitcoin ETF would only own Bitcoin, but it would be unlevered and it would charge you a fee. And our strategy is we use intelligent leverage. For example, we borrowed $2.2 billion at 1.6% interest blended. So we have very intelligent leverage, long-term, not mark-to-market. And then we buy Bitcoin with it. And then we don't charge a fee. And we generate a premium because when we generate cash flows or we do accretive financings, we then convert that into Bitcoin for the benefit of our shareholders. So MicroStrategy, the public company, we have a transparent strategy. And the key with a public company is when you adopt a strategy, you need to be consistent. You need to be transparent. Like, for example, if I created a REIT that invested in premium office space in New York and London, and I raised capital for that, you would want me to invest in premium office space in New York and London. And if I said, oh yeah, the market is, I got the point where I'm going to sell that and buy Kansas City farmland, and now I'm going to trade some digital assets or whatever, you would think, I can't really trust this company because I don't know what they're going to do. And if I don't know what they're going to do, then I don't want to invest my capital with them. So it's very important for a public company to have a strategy, to be understandable, and to be consistent in that strategy and transparent. So MicroStrategy's strategy is acquire and hold Bitcoin. By any means accretive. By accretive, it means, when you get done with the transaction, you want your public company shareholders to feel like they have more Bitcoin per share, or they have accreted their Bitcoin holdings and not diluted their Bitcoin holdings.
Numerous financial and macro experts assert the unsustainability of the current world's debt-based fiat system. It is widely acknowledged that all paper currencies will inevitably face continuous devaluation, eventually rendering them worthless. While the process may be more gradual for robust currencies like the US dollar, the world's reserve currency, the consensus is that, in the long run, every currency will erode to insignificance. In a recent interview, Michael Saylor elucidates that Bitcoin distinguishes itself as one of the rare assets capable of outperforming the devaluation rate of strong currencies, such as the dollar, which annually loses an average of 7% of its purchasing power. This underscores the importance of investing over saving for the long term. Saylor emphasizes that even top assets like the S&P 500 exhibit a modest annual gain of 7%, allowing for wealth maintenance rather than growth. Other assets, including bonds, gold, silver, less popular stock indexes, and various currencies, perform even less impressively. Bitcoin, however, stands apart due to its specific creation and design aimed at addressing the global problem of currency devaluation. The interview provides further insights into this perspective.
And with regard to myself, I'm long Bitcoin, man. like everybody else, I'm wishing I had bought more Bitcoin when it was 9,500 a Bitcoin, right? It's, ultimately, it's the best thing you can do. Let's talk about performance, though. For example, since MicroStrategy bought Bitcoin, we entered the market August 10th, 2020. And so what's happened to all these asset classes when you think about diversification? Well, between August 10th and October 31st, when we published our results on our quarterly result with MicroStrategy, then Bitcoin was up 192%. And that works out to a compounded annual growth rate of more than 40%. And the S&P is up 25%. Mm-hmm. And the NASDAQ's up 17%. Gold lost 1%. Silver lost 18%. Bonds lost 24%. So in terms of asset classes, Bitcoin is outrunning all of the other conventional asset classes. And if you invested in anything other than maybe Magnificent Seven, you're just not keeping up with inflation. But the Magnificent Seven stocks, if you look at them, while Bitcoin was up 192%, Google was up 68%. Microsoft was up 62%. Apple was up 51%. Meta Group was up 15%. Netflix lost 15%. Amazon lost 15%. So big tech doesn't look like such a good diversification versus Bitcoin. And, so how'd MicroStrategy do? Well, MicroStrategy was up 242%. So we actually outperformed Bitcoin. Why? Because we're levered long Bitcoin, right? We used intelligent leverage. We borrowed money to buy more Bitcoin. We didn't just put our assets into Bitcoin. We found a way to borrow $1 billion at 0% interest and buy Bitcoin, right? So if you can do that, I highly recommend you do that. The caveat being, you can't borrow the money at 0% interest if it's a margin loan, because you might get wiped out on Saturday night while you're sleeping. It can't be a mark-to-market. It needs to be like a 7-year, 9-year, 5-year term loan that isn't mark-to-market for that to be intelligent leverage. You want to diversify, I would say, anybody that said, I like Bitcoin, but I got to be diversified, I'd say, okay, fine. Buy a portfolio of scarce desirable assets that you want to hold for the next 30 years. and it has to pass, the Bernard Arnault test. It has to be something that a person richer than you and more sophisticated than you and more cultured than you and smarter than you will want to buy from you in a decade. And if you come up with that thing, maybe it's a Leonardo da Vinci painting, or maybe it's professional sports team, the Patriots. Maybe it's the middle of London. But I would say this is you could buy the best companies in the world and the best real estate in the world. It's still going to underperform Bitcoin for a lot of reasons we could talk about. So, if you made a lot of money, Bitcoin 10Xs or 100Xs, and you made a lot of money and you want to be diversified, then you buy scarce desirable properties, but you'll underperform. If you, if you're a Bitcoin maximalist, you just realize the cost of capital is, Bitcoin's going up 40% a year. The cost of capital is 40%. That means anything that you invest in has to yield that, which is kind of the risk-free cost of capital for a Bitcoin maximalist, plus the risk premium.
As per Michael Saylor, for any asset to surpass Bitcoin, it must consistently yield an annual return of at least 50 to 60% for the next decade. This requirement is in addition to being a prominent digital asset, forming the foundational core of a swiftly expanding digital world predicted by many to eventually surpass the entire traditional financial system. Saylor arrived at this realization in 2020 when seeking a secure haven for MicroStrategy's cash holdings to avoid constant devaluation. Bitcoin emerged as the ideal solution, and Saylor has steadfastly embraced it ever since. The renowned business executive expresses his sole regret about Bitcoin, which is not acquiring more when the leading cryptocurrency was priced below $10,000 per coin. Share your thoughts on Saylor's interview and his Bitcoin outlook, and feel free to contribute your predictions for Bitcoin in 2024 and beyond in the comments section below. For more Daily Dose Crypto news, check out these 2 awesome videos on your screen. Click now and we will see you on the next video.